I want to talk a bit about nerves, and I want to understand how you harness performance anxiety or any kind of excitement or nerves, whether it be prior to a game or just, in everyday life, and how you utilise those, for a positive benefit in terms of your performance. How do you do it? And what happens to your body when you are nervous?
Yeah. Before a game, generally in the warm-up, that's when I will start getting a bit anxious about what's about to happen. And Joyce Brown, my first coach with Melbourne Phoenix, was always very, not hard on us, but always very straight down the line that, this is how you prepare, this is what you do, this is how you should act. And when you step onto the court, it's like white line fever. You step over that line and you just forget about everything that's around you. And so I guess that advice has been quite good to me. But as I got older, I realised that I'm not the type of person that needs to be focused before a game or needs to, yes, I need to be prepared and I need to be organised, but once I get to the game, I need to just relax and chill out and not get so anxious about what's about to happen. And Sherelle and myself were doing the torch relay for the Com Games, and we're on a bus of all just amazing athletes, Olympians, everyone. And there was a diver on the bus who was an ex-diver, and she said to everyone, she goes, "Oh, how's everyone feeling? Is everyone really nervous?" And even though it was a torch relay, so we weren't even going out to play, but she goes, "Oh, don't you love it? Nerves, it's just your body getting ready to perform." And that was just one line that has just stuck with me forever. So whenever I'm in the change rooms and I'm feeling nervous or feeling anxious, I just think, oh, cool, I'm getting ready. And so now if I don't have the nerves, I almost worry whether I've prepared enough. And yeah, so I'm so glad that I was listening at that point in time, because now everyone comments how relaxed I am all the time, and I'm the one in the change room having a laugh and mucking around, because I know as soon as I've got to the game, I've studied my opposition, I know what I have to do, and I don't have to be sitting there in the corner with my iPod in just focusing. So yeah, and that same line that Joyce says, once you step over the line, you're in a new world, and yeah, you leave all your issues and everything behind you and you just step on and play.
Who's challenged you the most?
I would say Norma Plummer, probably, the Australian coach, has challenged me the most, both positive and negative ways. She's a super honest lady, and you do appreciate that. I think you learn to appreciate her honesty. Joyce Brown's another one who's been the same. Both very different coaches and very different styles, but they certainly push you to the limit, and they believe in you, but they both do it in very different ways.
Has there been a favourite saying or mantra that you've used during times of difficulty, whether it be during a match or just, difficult periods in your life? Has there been some sort of saying that you've developed that you've found really useful for you?
No regrets is something I've always kind of had as my little motto. When people are doing bios and they want a quote from you, I've always had, no excuses and no regrets, because one of my pet hates was always having people at training who was, had excuses all the time for not doing the right thing, or, they weren't at this fitness level because they had this on. And so I've always been a strong believer in that, but there's nothing that I've really stuck to that I say to myself all the time. I more operate when I have less in my head and I can just go and play. And, I'm probably the one thing I always just say, there's one ball in netball, there's one ball in our game. That's all I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about anything else other than getting that ball as a defender and trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Tell me what you think is required from a great coach.
I think they have to have a few different perspectives to them. Definitely to care about the player or the athlete as a player and as a person. I think that adds so much value to you understanding their messages and you understanding what they're trying to teach you. To have a bit of empathy about them, but also to realise that their job is to coach. It's not to be your mum. It's not to be your best friend. It is to be a coach, and sometimes you have to be tough. Sometimes you have to be nice, but just to realise that, they're there to do a job. So the coaches who are like that, Joyce and Norma, both have elements of that, but I'd probably say Joyce Brown for me has both of those things. She's really ticked all the boxes, and I've learnt a lot from her along the way. And she's challenged me a lot. She's the first person to ring me to tell me I didn't perform well enough, or I'm being lazy on the court, or I'm not fit enough. And that's what you need. You need someone to do that, because, you know, we're not here to... you know, it's elite sport. It's not just playing for fun anymore. It is elite.
Mm. What's the most significant thing that she's taught you?
She would probably say to move my feet, because that's what I always have in my head. She's always like, move your feet, Bianca. And as a defender, it's so important. But I think just to look after all aspects of my life, that don't stress so much about netball, don't put so much into it. Like, make sure you're happy, you have an education, you have everything around you organised, and then netball will take care of itself. And it's true. And, you know, I've learnt that a lot personally, that you need to do that. And so when things go wrong in netball, you've got the rest of your life to pick you back up, and vice versa.
What do you think lets athletes down?
Probably themselves, I think. I think a lot of people, a lot of athletes, especially in their heads, they either listen to too many people, or they, just have so much negative talk in their heads that they're not good enough, or they can't do something. And I believe that's people's biggest barriers. And you always know when you're doing a tough fitness session that it might seem impossible, but you know you can do it, and you can find that unbelievable, there's something inside you that gets you to finish. And, most people wouldn't be able to do it, but you know you can do it. And it's really hard to describe, but it's that mental barrier that, things are pretty much possible. There's nothing that is impossible. And I think over time and experience, as I get older, you start to realise that train smarter, but you actually can do whatever you want.
Mm. How important is environment around athletes in order to assist them to be successful?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and as I get older, I'm learning that as well. I think that we need, yes, your coach to, help you on the court, but we need so much off the court now. And one thing for me is the welfare side of things. Now that netball's moved into a semi-professional, nearly professional era, we have all the netball side of things right, we have all the support stuff right, but we don't have the welfare and the athlete development to try and show the younger girls that, yes, it's important to have an education, and yes, it's important that if something's going wrong in your life, that you need to talk about it. And one, I guess, significant moment where I realised that for me was when I was in 2010, so just before the Commonwealth Games in New Delhi. I was dropped just before that, and obviously I was 28 at the time, so I'm old enough to look after myself. But the moment I got told that I was dropped, I met with the coach, and she was about to announce it to the team, and she told me, and then they said to me, so you can either go now to the announcement or you can go, and we're in Canberra. So I remember going back to my room, packing my bags, getting in the cab, going to the airport, getting on a plane back to Melbourne. And from that moment that I'd found out that I wasn't in the team, and I'd been in the team for 8 years prior, that no one from Netball Australia had called me to see if I was okay. And I got all the way home to Melbourne. My sister and my family came and picked me up from the airport, and it wasn't until the Tuesday, so this is the Saturday, it wasn't until the Tuesday that Netball Australia had called me to see if I was okay and to see if I needed anything. And on top of that, it was released to the media on the Sunday. So all day Monday, my mobile is going crazy of me, people wanting to talk about it, what's happened. And, in my head, I still didn't really have a good understanding of what had happened. But I handled it all myself. And since then, people have, I guess, given me praise about how well I handled it and how professional I was. And I didn't really say anything wrong. I just took it on the chin and said I had to do better. But I so could have gone the other way. If I was somebody else, how do I know? You don't know how they're going to react. And I think we really need to make sure that in times like that, when it's somebody's life you're dealing with, that you really need to have someone there to support them and to make sure they're okay, to make sure they get home okay. And Yeah, so that's certainly a passion of mine now, and something that I would love to do once I finish playing is play that role.
What did you learn about yourself through that experience?
I certainly learnt that I was pretty tough, and that I'm always the type of person to keep things to myself, or, probably since I was younger and I was, competing against my sister, and I was always like trying to be very independent and to show that I could deal with these things. I didn't need people to help me, I can do it myself. So I knew I could handle the situation, and I knew, for me, it felt like it was happening to somebody else or to a part of me, and I was, I was trying to, help this person deal with it, even though it was me, if that makes sense. Kind of a very random way to look at it. But yeah, it wasn't completely just Bianca that it was happening to. It was just one little aspect of me. So I knew I was tough, and I knew that not to be emotional about it in front of people that I didn't trust, and it takes a lot for me to probably fully trust somebody. So, I just kept a lot of it to myself, spoke about it with the people that I wanted to speak about it with, and then when I was around netball people, I was like, yep, you know what, I'm fine. I've dealt with it, I've moved on, and you know what, I think that helped me actually move on and get over it very quickly.